Lisa Martinez woke up with her head pounding. The last thing she remembered was walking to her car after her shift at the military base. Now she found herself lying on a cold, smooth floor that seemed to glow with a soft blue light. She sat up, slowly, and looked around. She was inside some kind of cage made of what looked like crystal, but it buzzed with energy. The cage was about 10 feet wide and 12 feet long. Beyond the glowing walls, she could see rows and rows of similar cages. Stretching out in all directions, Lisa was not alone. In the cage next to hers stood a creature that looked like a giant insect walking on 2 legs. It had to be at least 8 feet tall, with 4 arms that ended in sharp claws. Its body was covered in dark, shiny armor that looked like it was part of its skin. 2 large eyes on stalks moved around constantly, watching everything. On her other side was something that looked almost human, but its skin was so pale it was nearly see-through. She could see veins and organs moving beneath the surface. It had long, thin fingers and large, dark eyes that seemed to look right through her. Across from her cage sat a creature that looked like it was made of living rock. It was huge, probably 12 feet tall even sitting down. Its skin was gray and rough like stone, and when it moved, small pieces of dust fell from its body. There were dozens of other creatures in cages all around her. Some looked like giant wolves, others like walking trees, and some she could not even begin to describe. All of them were trapped just like her. Lisa stood up and tested the walls of her cage. When she touched the crystal-like surface, it gave her a small shock that made her pull her hand back quickly. The energy field was strong enough to keep her inside, but not strong enough to really hurt her. She heard footsteps and turned to see their captors approaching. They were tall and thin, about 7 feet high, with pale skin and large heads. Their eyes were completely black, and they moved in a way that seemed to flow rather than walk. They wore tight-fitting clothes that looked like they were made of silver metal. One of them stopped in front of Lisa's cage and made sounds that her mind somehow understood as words. Specimen 347, species classification, human, origin, planet Earth, Sol system, capture successful. The alien turned to another one of its kind. This one was easy to take. They have no natural weapons, no armor, no special abilities. I do not understand why the buyers want these creatures. The second alien nodded. The buyers say humans are entertaining. They react in interesting ways when threatened. Some collectors want them for their games. Lisa felt anger growing in her chest, but she kept her face calm. She had been a Marine for 8 years. She knew how to control her emotions and think clearly even when she was scared or angry. The aliens moved on to check other cages. Lisa watched them carefully, noting how they moved, how many there were, and what kind of equipment they carried. She counted at least 20 of them in this large room. As the hours passed, Lisa began to understand more about her situation. The aliens were called Zephyrians, and they traveled from planet to planet, collecting what they thought were interesting creatures. They would sell these creatures to rich buyers who kept them like pets or used them for entertainment. The other prisoners began to take notice of her. The giant insect creature in the next cage made clicking sounds that somehow translated in her mind as speech. Small, soft creature, it said, "You should stay quiet and try not to be noticed. The sellers like to test new specimens. They will hurt you to see how you react." Lisa looked at the creature. "What is your name?" "I am Klaxon of the Vorthic warrior caste. I have killed many enemies in battle, but these creatures captured me while I slept." The pride in its voice was clear, even through the translation. "I am Lisa," she replied simply. The pale, see-through creature on her other side spoke up. Its voice sounded like music, but sad music. "I am Liriana of the Selenite people. I can read thoughts, but these cages block my abilities. What are you, Lisa? I have never seen a creature like you. I am human, Lisa said. We are from a planet called Earth. Klaxon made a sound that might have been laughter. Human? You look weak. No claws, no armor, no fangs. How did your species survive long enough to develop space travel? Lisa smiled. But it was not a happy smile. We are very good at surviving. Over the next few hours, more creatures tried to talk to her. Most of them seemed to think she was harmless because she looked small and soft compared to them. Some of them even seemed to pity her. The rock creature across from her spoke in a voice that sounded like grinding stone. Little flesh thing, you should prepare yourself. The sellers will test you soon. They like to see how different species fight when they are scared. Thank you for the warning, Lisa said politely. As time went on, she noticed that some of the larger, more aggressive creatures were starting to look at her differently. Not with pity, but with interest. The kind of interest a predator shows when it sees something it thinks might be easy prey. Lisa had seen that look before, on the faces of enemy soldiers who thought they had found an easy target. Those soldiers had learned they were wrong. Some of them had not lived long enough to learn anything else. She began to stretch and move around her cage, testing her muscles and joints. 8 years of marine training had kept her in excellent shape, and she was grateful for every push-up, every mile run, every hour spent in combat training. The Zephyrians came back several times to check on their prisoners. Each time, Lisa watched them carefully, learning their patterns and routines. She noticed they carried devices that looked like weapons, but they seemed confident that their energy cages were enough to keep everyone trapped out as what she guessed was nighttime approached. The lights in the large room dimmed. Most of the creatures settled down to rest, but Lisa remained alert. She had learned long ago that dangerous situations often changed quickly, and she wanted to be ready. That was when Klaxon decided to test the small human female. The Vorthek warrior moved to the part of his cage closest to hers. His forearms reached through the energy barrier, which allowed objects to pass through slowly, but shocked anything that moved too fast. Little human, he said in a voice meant to frighten, you should show proper respect to your betters. I am a warrior of the Vorthek. I have killed creatures much larger than you. His clawed hand moved toward her, intending to grab her and show the other prisoners that humans were as weak as they looked. Lisa watched the hand coming toward her. She calculated the angle, the speed, the reach. When the claw was just inches from her face, she moved. Her movement was smooth, fast, and precise. She grabbed Klaxon's wrist with both hands, stepped to the side, and used his own momentum against him. The warrior found himself pulled forward into the energy barrier, which gave him a much stronger shock than it had given Lisa at the same time. Lisa applied pressure to a specific point on his wrist. It was a technique she had learned for controlling prisoners, and it worked just as well on aliens as it did on humans. Klaxon dropped to his knees, his arm twisted at an angle that made his shoulder joint pop. Lisa held him there for exactly 3 seconds, then released him. The Vorthek warrior fell backward into his cage, clutching his arm and making high-pitched sounds of pain and confusion. Lisa returned to her sitting position as if nothing had happened. The entire room had gone completely silent. Every creature was staring at the small human female, who had just taken down one of the most feared warriors in the galaxy. Without even breathing hard, Lisa looked around at all the watching eyes. I tried to be polite, she said quietly, but I do not like being grabbed. In the shadows at the edge of the room, hidden cameras recorded everything. The Zephyrians who watched the footage would spend hours trying to understand what they had. Just seen they had captured something much more dangerous than they realized. The next morning, Lisa woke up to find the Zephyrians watching her cage very closely. 3 of them stood outside, talking in their flowing language. She could understand parts of what they were saying through the translation system built into the cages. The human specimen displayed unexpected combat ability, one of them said. Commander Vextar wants to run tests. It defeated a Vorthic warrior, another replied. Klaxon is still in the medical bay. His arm was nearly broken. Lisa pretended to be asleep while she listened. She learned that the Zephyrians had been watching through hidden cameras all night. They had seen what she did to Klaxon, and now they wanted to understand how a creature that looked so weak could be so dangerous. After the aliens left, the other prisoners began to whisper among themselves. Word of what had happened spread quickly through the cages. Some of the creatures looked at Lisa with new respect, while others seemed more afraid of her than before. Liriana, the pale Selenite, spoke softly to Lisa. The others are talking about you. They say you are not what you appear to be. None of us are, Lisa replied. We all ended up here somehow. Yes, but you are different. When you moved against Klaxon, it was like watching a predator hunt. But you do not look like a predator. Lisa thought about this. On my world, the most dangerous hunters do not always look dangerous. Sometimes the best weapon is being underestimated. Before Liriana could respond, the Zephyrians returned. This time, there were more of them, and they carried different equipment. Commander Vextar, who Lisa recognized by his more elaborate silver clothing, approached her cage. Specimen 347, he said, you will be moved to the testing arena. We need to understand your capabilities. The energy cage flickered and changed. Lisa felt a strange pulling sensation, and then she was standing in a different room. It was circular, with high walls and a dome ceiling. The floor was made of the same glowing material as the cages, but it was smooth and clean. Around the walls, she could see windows where the Zephyrians were watching. Some of them held devices that were probably recording everything. Human specimen. Vextar's voice came from speakers in the walls. You will face a series of challenges. Your reactions will be studied and recorded. Try to provide entertaining responses. Lisa looked around the arena. It was about 50 feet across, with nowhere to hide. She had been in similar training rooms during her military service, but those had been designed to teach her. This one was designed to test her limits. A section of the wall slid open, and 3 machines rolled into the arena. They looked like metal spiders, each about the size of a large dog. They had multiple legs that ended in sharp points, and their bodies had weapon ports that glowed with red light. Lisa had never seen anything like them, but she recognized them as combat drones. They moved in a pattern that seemed random at first, but as she watched, she began to see the logic behind their movements. The first drone attacked without warning, shooting a beam of red energy at her. Lisa rolled to the side, and the beam hit the floor where she had been standing, leaving a small burned marked dot. Now she understood. These machines were designed to hurt her, maybe even kill her, while the Zephyrians watched and recorded her reactions. They wanted to see how humans behaved when they were in fear for their lives. They were about to learn something they did not expect. Lisa did not panic. Instead, she watched the drones carefully as they positioned themselves around her. She counted their movements, timed their attacks, and looked for patterns in their behavior. The second drone fired, and Lisa moved again. But this time, she moved toward the machine instead of away from it. The drone was not programmed for prey that attacked back. It hesitated for just a moment, and that was enough. Lisa grabbed one of the drone's legs and used it as a lever to flip the machine over. The drone's weapons could not target her when it was upside down, and she could see the access panels on its underside. She ripped open the largest panel and pulled out a handful of wires and components. The drone stopped moving immediately. The other 2 drones adjusted their programming and attacked together. Lisa rolled behind the dead drone and used it as a shield while she studied the attackers. These machines were smart, but they were still just machines. They followed patterns, and patterns could be broken. Lisa waited until both drones were firing at her position. Then she pushed the dead drone toward them as hard as she could. The heavy machine crashed into one of the active drones. Tangling their legs together, while they were trying to separate, Lisa grabbed a piece of metal from the broken drone. It was about 2 feet long and had a sharp edge where it had been torn free. She threw it like a spear at the nearest drone. The metal piece went right through the machine's main body, and sparks flew out as it shut down. The last drone tried to retreat, but Lisa was already moving. She jumped on top of it and used her hands to pry open its armor. The machine bucked and twisted, trying to throw her off, but Lisa held on until she could reach its control systems. When the arena fell silent, Lisa stood in the center surrounded by the wreckage of 3 combat drones. She was breathing hard, but she was not injured. She looked up at the windows where the Zephyrians were watching. Many of them had backed away from the glass. "Is that entertaining enough for you?" she asked. Commander Vextar's voice came over the speakers, but he sounded different now, less confident. "Return the specimen to its cage." Lisa felt the same pulling sensation, and she was back in her crystal prison. But now every creature in the room was staring at her. Klaxon, who had returned from the medical bay with his arm in some kind of healing device, looked at her with what might have been respect. "You fight like a true warrior," he said. "I misjudged you." "You thought I was weak because I looked different from you," Lisa replied. "That was your mistake, not mine." The rock creature, who had told her his name was Thokmar, spoke in his grinding voice. The metal hunters were military-grade combat drones. "I have seen them used to control prison riots. You destroyed them like they were toys." "They were just machines," Lisa said. "Machines follow patterns. If you can understand the pattern, you can break it." Liriana leaned closer to the barrier between their cages. "The Zephyrians are scared of you now. I can sense their emotions even through these barriers. They did not expect a human to be so dangerous." Over the next few hours, Lisa noticed changes in how the Zephyrians treated her. They increased the power to her cage, and guards were always watching her now. They had also begun running scans on her with handheld devices, trying to understand her biology. Dr. Yithalon, the Zephyrian scientist, spent a long time studying the readings from his scanners. Lisa could see him through the observation windows, making notes and shaking his head as if he could not believe what he was seeing. Other prisoners began to approach her cage to talk. Word had spread that the small human had destroyed 3 combat drones without taking any damage. Some wanted to know how she had done it. Others wanted to know what other surprises humans might have. "Your species," said a creature that looked like a giant cat with 6 legs. "They are warriors?" "Some of us are," Lisa replied. "But we are all survivors." "What does that mean?" asked another creature, this one covered in scales and spines. Lisa thought about how to explain. "It means we do not give up. We adapt. We learn. We find ways to win even when everything seems hopeless." "The Zephyrians think they have collected a pet," said Thokmar. "They have collected a weapon." Lisa nodded. "They have made a mistake. They judged me by how I look instead of what I can do. That is always a mistake." As the day went on, more creatures attempted to test Lisa, but in different ways. A pack of the wolf-like creatures called Fanari tried to surround her cage during feeding time. They were pack hunters, and they thought they could intimidate her through numbers. But when Lisa stood up and looked at them directly, something strange happened. The Fanari, who were each larger than earth tigers, began to back away from her cage. They whimpered and lowered their heads like dogs that had been scolded. "What did you do to them?" asked Liriana. "Nothing," Lisa replied, watching the Fanari retreat. "But they recognized something in me. Predators can usually tell when they are facing another predator. But you are not a predator, Liriana said, confused. You are small and soft. You have no claws or fangs. Lisa smiled, but it was not a happy smile. My species became the top predator on our world without claws or fangs. We used something else. What? Our minds. We think, we plan, we work together. We turn everything around us into a weapon if we need to. That night, as the lights dimmed again, Lisa could hear the other prisoners talking quietly among themselves. They were beginning to understand that humans were not like other species they had encountered in the observation rooms. The Zephyrians were having similar conversations. They had captured what they thought was a primitive creature, but their tests were showing something very different. Commander Vextar looked at the reports from Dr. Yithalon. The human's muscle density was much higher than expected. Her bone structure was built for both endurance and explosive power. Her brain activity during the combat test showed patterns they had never seen before. Sir, Dr. Yithalon said nervously, I think we need to reconsider our classification of this species. What do you mean? Vextar asked. I think we have Maw. 3 days had passed since Lisa destroyed the combat drones. The atmosphere in the prison hold had changed completely. Where once the other creatures had seen her as weak prey, now they watched her with careful respect. Lisa spent her time observing everything around her. She memorized the guard rotations, counted how many Zephyrians worked on the ship, and studied the layout of the prison area. She talked to the cleaning robots that came through the cages, learning about the ship's systems through casual conversation. The robots were not very smart, but they knew about maintenance schedules, power systems, and security protocols. Lisa was careful to ask questions that seemed innocent, but each answer gave her more information about how to move around the ship. If she ever got the chance. Liriana had been watching Lisa carefully. The Selenite telepath was troubled by something she could not quite understand. Lisa, she said quietly, may I try something? What do you want to try? I want to touch your mind. Just briefly. These cages block most of my telepathic abilities, but if we are very close to the barrier between us, I might be able to sense your thoughts. Lisa considered this. She had been trained to resist interrogation, but she was curious about what the alien might discover. Go ahead, but be careful. Liriana moved to the edge of her cage and placed her pale hand against the energy barrier. Lisa did the same on her side. The Selenite's large dark eyes closed as she concentrated. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Liriana's eyes snapped open, and she fell backward, her face filled with terror. What did you see? Lisa asked, concerned. Liriana was shaking. Your mind. It is like nothing I have ever encountered. There are layers upon layers, sections that are locked away from each other. And underneath it all, she stopped, unable to continue. What? Violence, such controlled violence. You have the capacity for destruction that rivals the greatest predators in the galaxy, but you keep it locked away behind walls of discipline and training. You are not just dangerous, Lissa. You are terrifying. Other prisoners had overheard this conversation. The news spread quickly through the hold that even a telepathic species found the human's mind frightening. Klaxon approached his side of the barrier. His arm was healed now, and he moved more carefully around Lisa than he had before. Human Lisa, he said formally, I must ask you something. Your species, are they all like you? What do you mean? Are they all warriors hiding behind a peaceful appearance? Lisa thought about this question. How could she explain humanity to creatures who had never encountered anything like them? We are not all warriors, she said finally, but we are all survivors. My people have been fighting for thousands of years, not just against other species, but against our own world, against nature, against each other. We learned to be tough because we had to be. But you also show kindness, said Thokmar from his cage. Yesterday you shared your food with the small, flying creature when it was sick. A pure predator would not do this. Lisa nodded. That is what makes humans dangerous. We can choose when to be kind and when to be violent. We can switch between the two instantly, depending on what the situation needs. Dr. Yithalon had been running more tests on Lisa, using scanners that could work through the cage barriers. The results were disturbing him more each day. Human physiology was unlike anything in their databases. Humans had evolved as endurance hunters, capable of pursuing prey across vast distances until exhaustion made the kill easy. But they had also developed brains capable of complex planning and tool use. The combination was unprecedented. Most species were either physically powerful or mentally advanced, but rarely both. Humans seemed to have developed along both paths simultaneously. Even more concerning were the scans of Lisa's memories. The Zephyrians could not read her thoughts directly, but they could detect patterns in her brain activity. Those patterns suggested that she had extensive training in combat, tactics, and survival. Commander, Dr. Yithalon reported to Vextar, I have been analyzing the human's brain patterns during various activities. When she destroyed the combat drones, her neural activity showed something remarkable. Explain. She was not just reacting to threats. She was thinking several moves ahead, like a master playing a complex game. Every action was part of a larger strategy. Commander Vextar studied the reports. Are you saying this creature is more intelligent than we first believed? I am saying that human intelligence may be fundamentally different from what we understand. They do not just think, they plan. They do not just react, they adapt. And most importantly, they learn from every experience. This conversation was taking place while Lisa was having her own discussions with the other prisoners. Over the past few days, she had become something like a leader among them. Creatures who had been enemies were now working together, partly because Lisa had shown them how to cooperate. The Zephyrians make a mistake, Lisa explained to a group gathered near her cage. They think of us as individual specimens, but many species are stronger when they work together. How do we work together when we are in separate cages? Asked one of the wolf-like Fenari. We share information. We coordinate our actions. When they take one of us for testing, the others watch and learn. When they feed us, we observe the guards and their routines. What is the purpose of this? Asked a creature that looked like a giant praying mantis. Preparation, Lisa said simply. If an opportunity comes to escape, we need to be ready to take it. You think we can escape from this ship? Thokmar asked. I think we should be prepared for any possibility. Lisa had been careful not to reveal too much about her planning, but she had been working on several different scenarios. She knew the guard schedules, the power systems, and the layout of at least part of the ship. More importantly, she had been identifying which of the other prisoners might be useful allies. The Vorthic warrior Klaxon was an obvious choice. Despite their rough introduction, he was experienced in combat and understood tactics. Thokmar was incredibly strong and could probably break through barriers that would stop others. Liriana might be able to use her telepathic abilities to confuse or distract the Zephyrians if they got close enough. But Lisa's real advantage was that the Zephyrians still did not understand what they were dealing with. They saw her as a dangerous, but ultimately controllable specimen. They had no idea that she was systematically gathering intelligence and preparing for multiple contingencies. The test came sooner than expected. A fight broke out between two of the larger creatures, and the Zephyrian guards rushed in to stop it. In the confusion, one of the guards accidentally damaged the power control for several cages. Lisa's cage flickered, and for a moment, the energy barrier weakened. It was only a few seconds, but it was enough. Lisa could have tried to escape right Then, the guards were distracted, and she might have been able to get out of the prison area. But instead, she stayed in her cage and observed. She watched how the guards responded to emergencies. She saw which systems they checked first, and which ones they seemed to trust to work automatically. She observed their communication procedures and their backup protocols. When the situation was under control and her cage was back to full power, Lisa had learned more about Zephyrian security procedures than hours of casual observation had taught her. Liriana had noticed that Lisa had not tried to escape. "You could have left," she said quietly. "Where would I go?" Lisa replied, "I am on an alien ship in space. Even if I got out of this room, I would still be trapped." "Then why did you look so pleased when the cage malfunctioned?" Lisa smiled. "Because now I know something important." "What?" "I know that their security systems have weaknesses, and I know how they respond when those weaknesses are exposed." That night, the Zephyrians held a meeting to discuss the human specimen. Commander Vextar had received disturbing reports from several departments. "The creature is affecting the behavior of the other specimens," reported the head guard. "They are more cooperative with each other, and they seem to be communicating more than before. It is also asking the maintenance robots many questions," added the ship's engineer. "The robots think the questions are harmless, but when taken together, they suggest the human is trying to learn about our ship's systems." Dr. Yithalon nodded. "My analysis suggests that humans are natural leaders and strategists. This specimen may be organizing the others for some purpose." "What purpose?" asked Vextar. "Unknown. But I recommend increased security measures." But even as they spoke, Lisa was having a quiet conversation with Thokmar about the structural weak points in the cage systems. She had noticed that the energy barriers were generated by small devices mounted in the corners of each cage. If those devices could be damaged. "You have a plan," Thokmar said. It was not a question. "I have several plans," Lisa replied. "The question is which one will work best when the time comes. And when will that be?" Lisa looked around at the other prisoners, all of whom had grown to trust her leadership over the past few days. Some of them were natural warriors. Others were brilliant in different ways. Together, they represented some of the most dangerous individuals from dozens of different worlds. The Zephyrians had made the mistake of putting them all in one place, under the leadership of a human who understood how to turn any situation to her advantage. "Soon," Lisa said quiet. The opportunity Lisa had been waiting for came in the worst possible way. Commander Vextar announced that they would be holding a special presentation for potential buyers across the galaxy. The Zephyrians wanted to show off their most interesting specimens to increase the bidding prices. Lisa woke up to find technicians setting up holographic projection equipment around the prison hold. Large floating cameras moved between the cages, recording each prisoner from multiple angles. "What is happening?" asked Liriana. "They are going to sell us," Lisa replied, watching the technicians work. "They want to show buyers what they are." Getting before the auction, the setup took several hours. During this time, Lisa noticed something important. The technicians had to override some of the security systems to install their equipment. They were focused on getting good camera angles and clear holographic projections, not on maintaining maximum security. When the presentation began, holographic images of wealthy aliens appeared around the prison hold. Lisa could see representatives from dozens of different species, all interested in buying exotic creatures for their private collections. Commander Vextar began his presentation with the larger, more obviously dangerous specimens. He showed off Klaxon's combat abilities, Thokmar's incredible strength, and the Fenari Pack's hunting instincts. Each demonstration was designed to impress the buyers and drive up prices. Finally, Vextar approached Lisa's cage. "And here we have a very special specimen," he announced to the holographic audience. This is a human from a recently discovered primitive world called Earth. What makes this creature interesting is its unexpected combat potential despite its weak appearance. Lisa stood calmly in the center of her cage, looking directly at the cameras. She could see the alien buyers studying her with interest. Humans appear harmless, Vextar continued, but they can provide excellent entertainment in combat situations. Watch this demonstration. He activated a pain inducer, a device designed to cause intense suffering without permanent damage. The buyers expected to see Lisa scream, beg, or collapse in agony. Instead, Lisa looked directly into the main holographic camera with steady, calm eyes. When she spoke, her voice was clear and measured. My name is Sergeant Lisa Martinez, United States Marine Corps, Service Number 2,847,539. I am a citizen of Earth. Sol System, Orion Arm. She paused, letting her words sink in. We know where we are. We know who took us, and we are coming. The effect on the buyers was immediate. Several of the holographic images flickered and disappeared as aliens cut their connections. Others began speaking rapidly in their own languages, demanding explanations. One buyer, a crystalline being that towered over the others, spoke directly to Vextar. Commander, explain what this creature just said. Earth is listed in our databases as a primitive world with no interstellar capabilities. Vextar looked confused and angry. The human is trying to frighten you with lies. Earth has no spacefaring technology. But Lisa was not finished. Commander Vextar of the Zephyrian Acquisition Fleet, ship designation ZAF-2847. You are guilty of kidnapping citizens of Earth. My government considers this an act of war. Impossible, Vextar said, but his voice had lost its confidence. Humans have no interstellar government. Lisa smiled, and every buyer who was still connected to the broadcast felt a chill at that expression. You should have done better research before you decided to hunt us. The crystalline being, who Lisa now realized was some kind of high-ranking official, demanded access to their star charts and databases. What they found there made the situation much worse. Over the past several months, human ships had been detected at the edges of multiple star systems. The aliens had assumed these were primitive exploration vessels, not worth attention. But now they realized those ships had been conducting systematic reconnaissance missions. High Counselor Zarthex, one of the buyers, addressed the crystalline being. What does this mean? It means, Zarthex replied slowly, that we may have seriously underestimated this species. Dr. Yithalon, who had been monitoring the situation, approached Commander Vextar with a datapad. His hands were shaking as he presented his findings. Sir, I have been analyzing our own sensor records. The human is correct. We have been followed for the past 6 days by vessels using advanced stealth technology. That is impossible, Vextar insisted. Our sensors would have detected any ships following us. Not if their technology is more advanced than ours. Dr. Yithalon replied quietly. Lisa heard this exchange and felt a surge of satisfaction. Her emergency beacon had worked exactly as intended. When the Zephyrians had captured her, she had activated a small device hidden in her clothing. It was not just a distress signal. It was a targeting beacon that would allow human ships to track the alien vessel across interstellar distances. How long do we have? Vextar asked his sensor operator. Unknown. Sir, the contacts are still at the edge of our detection range, but they are closing fast. High Counselor Zarthex's holographic image leaned forward. Commander Vextar, you will immediately release all human specimens and prepare to surrender your vessel to Earth authorities. I will not surrender my ship to primitives, Vextar replied angrily. Then you are a fool, Zarthex said. Do you have any idea what you have done? You have committed an act of war against a species that we know nothing about. A species that has apparently developed interstellar military capabilities without anyone noticing. Lisa watched the panic spreading through the holographic conference. She had seen this before, in enemy commanders who suddenly realized they had made a terrible mistake. The humans have been watching us, another buyer said, his voice filled with fear. They let us capture their people so they could track us back to our territories. No, Lisa said calmly, drawing everyone's attention back to her. We did not let you capture anyone. But when you took our people, you made yourselves our enemies. And humans are very good at dealing with enemies. Vextar tried to regain control of the situation. This creature is trying to frighten you. Even if humans have some ships, we are still superior. Our technology is thousands of years more advanced. Lisa looked at him with something that might have been pity. You keep making the same mistake. You judge us by your own standards instead of learning what we are really capable of. And what are you capable of? Zarthex asked. We adapt, Lisa said simply. We learn. We take whatever we find and make it better. You gave us examples of your technology when you captured us. Did you think we would not study it? The truth of what she was saying began to sink in. Every human the aliens had captured had been exposed to Zephyrian technology. If even one of them had escaped or been rescued, Earth would have had samples. To reverse-engineer Dr. Yithlon checked his sensors again. Sir, the contacts are definitely human vessels. 5 ships, approaching at high speed. Their energy signatures do not match anything in our databases. Because you built the databases. Before you met us, Lisa explained. You cataloged every known species in the galaxy, but you did not know we existed. That gave us an advantage. Vextar was beginning to understand how badly he had miscalculated. What do you want? He asked Lisa. I want you to return every human you have taken. I want you to provide full information about your slave trading operations. And I want you to surrender to Earth authorities for trial. And if we refuse? Lisa's smile was cold and dangerous. Then you will discover why every predator on my world learned to fear humans. The sensor operator called out urgently. Sir, the human ships have just dropped out of stealth. They are broadcasting a message. Put it on speakers, Vextar ordered. A clear, authoritative voice filled the prison hold. Zephyrian vessel, this is Admiral Kate Morrison of the Earth. Defense Force, commanding the USS Retribution. You have kidnapped citizens of Earth. You will immediately release all human prisoners and prepare to be boarded. Vextar tried to respond with authority. This is Commander Vextar. You are in violation of galactic law by operating in this sector. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Admiral Morrison's response was immediate and cold. Commander. Vextar, you have exactly 60 seconds to begin releasing our people. After that, we will take them by force. You dare threaten us? Vextar shouted. We have superior numbers and technology. 50 seconds, Admiral Morrison replied calmly. Lisa could see the panic spreading through the Zephyrian crew. They had expected to face primitive spacecraft with basic weapons. But the human ships on their sensors were showing energy readings that made no sense. Sir, Dr. Yithlon reported, their vessels are generating power levels that should be impossible. For ships of that size. How is that possible? Vextar demanded. Lisa answered him. Because we do not think the same way you do. You build ships according to established patterns and known limitations. We build ships to win. 30 seconds. Admiral Morrison announced. High Counselor Zarthek's holographic image had grown brighter, indicating extreme agitation. Commander Vextar, I am ordering you to comply with the human demands immediately. Do not engage their vessels. I will not be intimidated by primitives, Vextar replied stubbornly. 20 seconds. Lisa looked around at her fellow prisoners. You might want to hold on to something, she advised them. 10 seconds. Admiral Morrison's voice continued. The countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The human boarding parties cut through the Zephyrian ship like a hot knife through butter. Lisa could hear the sounds of battle echoing through the corridors, but it was not the chaotic noise of a desperate fight. It was the systematic sound of professionals doing their job. Through the prison hold's communication system, she could hear reports from Zephyrian security teams. Each report was worse than the last. Deck 7 is lost. The humans are using our own security systems against U.S. They have taken engineering. How did they learn our computer codes so quickly? Medical Bay is secured. They are treating our wounded better than we treat them. Lisa listened to these reports with professional interest. The human military had clearly learned a great deal from the captured Zephyrian technology. But more than that, they were fighting smart, taking key systems instead of just trying to kill everyone aboard. Commander Vextar appeared at the entrance to the prison hold, flanked by 6 guards carrying energy weapons. He looked desperate and angry. Human, he called to Lisa, tell your people to stop their attack, or we will kill every prisoner aboard this ship. Lisa looked at him calmly. No, you will not. What makes you so certain? Because you are not stupid enough to destroy. You're only bargaining chips. And because my people are already here. As if summoned by her words, the lights in the prison hold went out. Emergency lighting kicked in a moment later, bathing everything in red light. In that brief moment of darkness, Lisa heard the sound of movement. When the lights came back up, human soldiers in advanced combat armor stood behind Vextar and his guards. The Zephyrians had not even heard them approach. Drop your weapons, a calm voice said from behind Vextar. You are surrounded. The Zephyrian guards looked around in panic. They were outnumbered and outflanked. Their weapons clattered to the floor as they raised their hands in surrender. A human soldier stepped forward and removed his helmet. He was a tall man with gray hair and steady eyes. His uniform marked him as a colonel. Sergeant Martinez, he said formally. Colonel Blake, Earth Defense Force. Are you injured? No, sir, Lisa replied. All human personnel are accounted for and in good health. Excellent. We will have you out of there in just a moment. The colonel turned to address the other prisoners while his team worked on disabling the cage systems. Citizens of the galaxy, I am Colonel Blake of the Earth Defense Force. You have been illegally captured and imprisoned. We are here to free all prisoners, not just humans. One of the technicians approached with a device that looked like a more advanced version of the Zephyrian tools. Sir, we have analyzed their cage systems. We can disable them safely. Do it. The energy barriers flickered and disappeared. For the first time in over a week, Lisa was free. She stepped out of her cage and stood at attention in front of Colonel Blake. Sir, requesting permission to report. Permission granted, Sergeant. Lisa gave a brief but complete summary of everything she had observed during her captivity. She described the ship's layout, security procedures, and the Zephyrian slave trading operation. She also provided tactical assessments of the other prisoners and their capabilities. Colonel Blake listened without interruption, occasionally nodding or making notes on a handheld device. Outstanding work, Sergeant. Your intelligence will be valuable for future operations. Other human soldiers were helping the alien prisoners out of their cages. Many of them seemed confused by the humans' behavior. They had expected their rescuers to show the same casual cruelty as their captors, but the humans were treating everyone with professional courtesy. Claxon approached Lisa cautiously. Human Lisa, your people fight with great skill. I have never seen a boarding action conducted so efficiently. Thank you, Lisa replied. We have had a lot of practice. What will happen to us now? Asked Liriana. Colonel Blake answered her. "We will return you to your home worlds if possible. If not, we will help you find safe places to live. No one will be forced to stay in captivity." Thokmar, the rock-like creature, spoke in his grinding voice. "You are freeing us, even though we are not your species." "Why? Because it is the right thing to do," Colonel Blake said simply. Admiral Morrison's voice came over the ship's communication system. "Colonel Blake, report. Prison hold secured, Admiral. All prisoners are safe and accounted for. The Zephyrian command staff has surrendered. Excellent. Bring them to the bridge. We need to have a conversation about their business practices." As they moved through the ship toward the bridge, Lisa noticed how efficiently the human forces had taken control. Every important system was guarded, every crew member was accounted for, and damage to the ship had been kept to a minimum. The bridge was a large, circular room with holographic displays showing star charts and ship status. Admiral Morrison stood in the center, a woman in her 50s with short gray hair and the bearing of someone accustomed to command. Commander Vextar was brought before her, along with Dr. Ythalon and several other senior officers. They looked defeated and frightened. "Commander Vextar," Admiral Morrison said, "you are guilty of kidnapping, slavery, and acts of war against Earth. However, we are prepared to be reasonable." "What do you want?" Vextar asked quietly. "Information. We want the locations of all your slave markets. We want the names of your buyers and suppliers. We want complete records of everyone you have captured over the past 10 years. And if we provide this information, then you will be turned over to the appropriate galactic authorities for trial. If you do not provide this information, you will be turned over to Earth authorities for trial." Dr. Ythalon stepped forward. "Admiral, may I ask what the difference is?" Admiral Morrison smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. Earth authorities are much less forgiving of slavers. The Zephyrians quickly agreed to provide all the information Earth requested. Over the next several hours, human technicians downloaded terabytes of data from the Zephyrian ship's computers. The information revealed a vast network of slave traders, operating throughout the galaxy, capturing sentient beings for sale to wealthy collectors. Lisa stood on the bridge of the USS Retribution, looking out at the stars through the main view screen. Admiral Morrison approached her. "Sergeant Martinez, I want you to know that your actions here have saved more than just the prisoners on this ship. The intelligence you gathered will help us shut down slave trading operations across the galaxy." "Thank you, Admiral. But I had help from the other prisoners. They deserve credit too. They will receive it. In fact, several of them have asked to speak with our diplomatic corps about establishing formal relations between their worlds and Earth." Lisa was not surprised. The other prisoners had seen how humans conducted themselves in crisis situations. They had witnessed human efficiency, courage, and ethical behavior under pressure. "Admiral, may I ask what happens next?" "Next, we go home. But Earth's role in galactic affairs has changed permanently. The other species have seen what we are, capable of. Some of them are frightened, some are impressed, and some want to be our allies." "And the slave traders?" Admiral Morrison's expression grew cold. "There will be no more slave traders. We have made that very clear to the galactic community." As the human fleet prepared to return to Earth, Lisa thought about everything that had happened. The Zephyrians had captured her thinking they were getting a harmless primitive. Instead, they had learned that humans were far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. But it was not just human military power that had impressed the galaxy. It was human character. The willingness to fight for others, to show mercy to enemies, and to do the right thing even when it was difficult. 6 months later, Lisa stood in a training facility on Earth, addressing a class of new recruits who would be joining the Earth Defense Force's new Interstellar Operations Division. "Remember," she told them, When you encounter other species, they will judge you by your actions, not your words. They will expect you to behave like every other predator, species they have met. Your job is to show them that humans are different. One of the recruits raised his hand. How are we different, Sergeant? Lisa smiled. We are dangerous when we need to be, but we choose when to be dangerous. We can be the most terrifying predators in the galaxy, but we can also be the most reliable allies. That choice, that control, is what makes us human. She looked out the window at the spaceport, where ships were being prepared for missions throughout the galaxy. Earth had taken its place as a major power, not through conquest, but through competence and character. The galaxy thought they were capturing a harmless primitive when they took me, Lisa continued. They learned that there is no such thing as a harmless human. But they also learned that humans can be trusted to do the right thing, even when no one is watching. And that, she concluded, is why they are more afraid of us than they are of any other species. Because we are not just dangerous. We are dangerous and moral. And that combination is something they have never encountered before. The recruits nodded, understanding the responsibility they were taking on. They would be representing humanity to the galaxy, and the choices they made would determine how their species was remembered. As Lisa dismissed the class, she thought about the Zephyrians and the lesson they had learned too late. They had judged humans by their appearance and assumed. They understood what they were dealing with, but